Good morning, genealogy friends. Happy Monday. I hope that you're doing well and you had a good weekend. We are going to be talking about city directories today, and I also have new pages for you. Flip this around. Good morning. My voice is I feel like as soon as I said that, my voice crapped out. My voice is mostly back, which is good, so we can get back to our regularly scheduled programming. And I have new pages for you that I was going to share on Friday, but then I had a technical error, something I messed up. I actually don't have the pages in the shop yet, though. My husband needed to borrow my computer this morning for work. As soon as I get it back from him, I will hit publish and get those going in the shops, and I'll send an email. So if you're on my email list, you'll get an email with links to all of the new pages. If you're not on my email list, you have time, but you have to go to familytrenotebooks.com, look for the link that says download your 3 free pages, because people who join the email list get the 3 free samples. And then that's where you put in your information to join the email list. And then I believe you have to confirm it before you actually get emails. So if you wanted to get this email this morning and you're not on the list, I would do that now. And I'm going to let you know what pages will be coming out just so that you can have a heads up. Also, I didn't put together an October pages supplement for the big list of genealogy pages, that printable list that is right at the top there. I thought about it, but now I'm like, well, now I'm going to have these weird November pages and people will be confused. So I'll put together a supplement for November that includes the October pages, and I'll release that on the 1st of December, and we'll just do it that way. Okay, the pages that are going to be coming out later today when I get my computer back are first spouse profiles. These are profile pages. First spouse profile, second spouse, third spouse, fourth spouse, and fifth spouse. I stopped there, but just because I figured that was going to cover the majority of families. And then I've got pages for blizzard, childcare, daycare, discoveries, earthquake, flood, front porch, gateway ancestor to royalty, generations, blank this time, hurricane, inventions, on this day, tattoos, tornado, and that's it. I was like tornado and then another tornado page, but that's because it's an extra. Those are the pages that are coming out. So again, get on the email list, and I will send you links as soon as those pages are up. We had new pages come out last week, but they were just the left-handed ancestor divider pages. So I'll probably include a link to that because I don't think I ever sent out an email. But that's all you missed from last week if you didn't get on. Okay, so that's enough about that. Let's talk about city directories. So I've talked about city directories before, but I feel like city directories are a weirdly underutilized record. They're easy to find. And I am going to be talking about city directories, focusing on ancestors living in the United States, but most areas have some kind of directory, and so this information would be applicable. Just know that I'm talking about U.S. records. If you've got ancestors that have lived in the United States in the last 100 years, they're going to be listed in city directories. It is not as common now to be listed in a city directory because people move and we have online directories and other kinds of records. But, 100 years ago, city directories were a very essential part of being in the community. There were a lot of benefits to being listed in the city directory. So, sorry, my cat decided to open the window by herself. So you're going to find people in the city directories pretty consistently. Now, they might not be in the directory right away. So if you know that you had an ancestor who was living in an area and you can't find them in the city directory, there are a couple possibilities. One, it is possible that you've got the wrong area, but I'm not going to say, if you're pretty confident or if you have other records, then the chances are that they just weren't listed in the city directory yet. Maybe there was some reason why they didn't want to be listed. Again, it was much more of a social benefit than any kind of problem for most people. But yeah, if you can't find them though, and that's you only have like a vague sense that they were probably in this area, then you may want to expand your search a little bit and look for them in city directories in surrounding areas. But the reason that you want to find them in city directories is that usually it's not just their name and their address listed, although that's helpful because then you can check their name to see if maybe there's an initial listed that you didn't know. Maybe there's a different spelling of their name or a nickname, especially for women. You know, suddenly your great aunt Elizabeth is listed as Bunny, and suddenly because you're searching for Bunny in newspapers.com now, you can find all sorts of articles about her. And the addresses are important because they may help you find other records, maybe property records, rental records, depending on where they're living. But most city directories have additional information. You're going to often find an occupation and potentially an employer listed. You may find a secondary business address listed in the city directory, which could lead you to business records, tax records, things like that. If you go through the directory, you can also find people who are living in the same street. You can look for people when you're doing your friends and neighbors research, and you've compiled those, lists of other people that are listed on the census. Look for those people in the directory and see what other information you can find out about them, because occasionally looking for that information then in whatever you find, looking for that in newspapers.com or in other searches, that may lead you to other records that have something to do with your ancestor. There are also occasionally city directories have other things, other information listed, but you can also use it as a tool to indicate if you're trying to figure out when somebody died. You can look in the city directory. If they were listed for a long time and suddenly they're not listed anymore, that might be a hint that that person passed away. Just know that the problem with city directories is that they don't explain themselves. So when somebody suddenly isn't listed, maybe they died, maybe they moved away, maybe they got older and moved in with a child, an adult child that lived in another city, but it's still a hint. So, I think more importantly, if you've got somebody listed in the city directory in 57, 58, and 59, then they probably didn't die in 1957 because city directories were reasonably well maintained. Okay, so the question is, how do you find a city directory? That's not going to be something that you necessarily have around the house. Like phone books, after a while, if they became outdated, people were going to throw those away. However, they are going to be on file at your local library or at your city historical center, things like that. A lot of libraries have actually digitized them as well, so you can look at libraries that are local to the area that you're searching in and see if they have any digitized city directories. There are a ton of city directories that are on Ancestry if you've got a subscription. If you don't have a subscription, you can see if your library has an Ancestry Library Edition subscription. The city directory should be available there too. You can also access Ancestry from a family history center. I know the library that the California Genealogical Society maintains, you have access to Ancestry there. So I found a lot of city directories in Ancestry myself. There are also city directories on Fold3, which is weird because Fold3 is only military, but there was a crossover, and for a while they were kind of doing other things, and they stopped adding city directories, but the ones that they already had on there are still on Fold3 and they're not on Ancestry, which is very confusing because Fold3 and Ancestry are the same company. It just might be worth a passing look if you have a Fold3 subscription. If you don't have a Fold3 subscription, it's not worth it to get a subscription just to see if the city directory is there for your ancestor, because like I said, there aren't that many city directories listed. But make a note, and then the next time Fold3 is free, you have something on your list of things to search the next time Fold3 is having free access days. Glenda put in a note, I like finding addresses and then finding that house on Google Street View to see what it looks like now. I love that. I actually have a page for that. I use the residence page, and I'll put if I have an older historical image, I'll put that image on the top and then the newer image on the bottom in the notes section. And if I don't have an older image, then I'll just use the new Google Street View screenshot image. But I love that. That's how I've been able to tour around the places that my family lived in Chicago, because I haven't been to Chicago since I was a little girl. But there are a lot of buildings there that are still standing, and you can see them on Street View. It's great. Okay, if you don't want to pay for subscription sites to get to city directories. You can actually find a lot of them on Google Books, which is weird, but very cool. So if you remember, I have another video on using Google Books, searching Google Books. You can also just Google and then refine your search results if that's easier for you, but there is a way to just search Google Books. And if I were you, if you've got an area that you're researching, search Google Books for that area. You might find city directories, and you might find other things like local histories and stuff like that. So if you haven't done that, you should be doing that anyway. But yeah, look for city directories on Google Books. Cindy's List has a list of links to like smaller websites that have random city directories. And so check Cindy's List if you aren't having any luck either. That's another good place. I mean, you could just Google, you know, Columbus, Ohio city directory too. It's just that you're going to get more of a mess of results if you do it that way. But yeah, just know that the local library should have city directories going pretty far back. So when all else fails, call the library and just see what they have to say. Because even if they don't have it digitized, they may have it in person, or they may be able to tell you what they did with the city directories that they had. It's just kind of a library type thing. Okay, I am going to show you, I have a city directory page, and I didn't use that page for this page in my family tree notebook because this is one of the first notebooks that I did, and so I used the blank page. But just know that there is a city directory page if you wanted to use it. I just wanted to show you this page really quick. This is an example of different information that you can find. So this is a city directory. This is Marin County. It's actually a voting directory, but they had it listed with the city directories digitized in the library. And here you can see my great-grandparents listed. I've highlighted them, and we've got them listed. They're listed at different addresses. They actually lived in these little houses that were right next to each other, but they lived in this area called China Camp, and it was basically like, I mean, everybody kind of lived together. If you can imagine like a campground, that's kind of what their houses were like. But my great-grandpa Henry has the mailing address listed, that he's in box 161 on the frontage road. And then she's just listed as living at China Camp. But it's interesting because their occupations are listed. She's a housewife and he's a fisherman. But then she's a Republican and he's a Democrat. I've always found that interesting. There was a lot of tension in their marriage for lots of different reasons. But it's funny because they were together. You know, they were never married to anybody else. And every single record that I find, it just shows that they were very different from each other. And yet, you know, it's just kind of another layer of that story. But this is, I think, do I have another city directory? I don't think I do for him. She's listed in the city directory later, but I don't need to show you that right now. Anyway, but yeah, that record was listed as a city directory, even though it's a voting directory, basically. And it had just that little bit of information to confirm. I knew where they were living, but it was nice to have that extra hint and look into their lives. I don't know much about their political leanings. That's not one of those things that gets passed down, I don't think, very easily. But I wouldn't have assumed that they were on different sides of the fence. And so again, it's just another part of the story. Anyway, that is your challenge for this week. Go see if you can find a city directory that you haven't seen before. If you have any success, leave it in the comments, because when you guys have success, then you encourage other people in our little group to go and look. And so we can all just like boost each other up, find all the directories. I'm going to go check on my husband and see if I'm any closer to getting my computer back. And you'll be getting an email from me in a little while with all those new pages. And I will see you guys on Wednesday.